Welcome to my new daily show. Greg and his friend talk sports 10 to 20 minutes every day, sometime between 12:01 a.m. and 6 p.m. I'm talking about what Central Indiana sports fans are talking about. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, Central Indiana sports fans. Whenever you've chosen to tune in to the Central Indiana Sports Report, producers Susie and I could not be happier. Welcome to my new daily podcast. Greg and his friends talk sports 10 to 20 minutes every day, sometime between 12:01 a.m. and 6 p.m. I'm talking about what Central Indiana sports fans are talking about. Most weekdays it will be early to late afternoon that we release this podcast. On weekends it'll usually be overnight. Coming up, Indiana beat Purdue for the second straight time as the preseason number one Boilermakers drop their third straight game. Our Purdue guy, Jake Dunn, and our IU guys, Mike Hutsell and Grant Shouse, reacted to IU's win on Tuesday night, and we'll hear from Mike and Grant here coming up. Plus, IU's 2026 football schedule has been released. We'll get Mike's and Grant's thoughts on the schedule with a really fun October. Plus, I'll look ahead to Wednesday, including the Pacers returning home to face the Bulls. I'll be back again tomorrow, and the next day, and the next day, and the next day, and the day after that, and the day after that. Please join us for all of them. Indiana got his first win this season over a top 25 win, and there's no one they'd rather do it against. A 72-67 win over visiting 12th ranked Purdue, capping what has to be the best 8-day stretch in the history of that athletic department. A 13-0 IU run starting in the middle of the first half gave them the lead for good. IU led by as many as 14 points in the second half, 59-45 with 9:54 left. Purdue got as close as 2 points at 65-63 with 1:28 left. But then Connor Enright hit a huge three-pointer, and the Hoosiers had the space they needed. Lamar Wilkerson and Nick Dorn had big nights for the Hoosiers with 18 and 17 points respectively. Trey Kaufman-Wren led all scorers with 23 points, and Braden Smith had 14 points and 5 assists in what has to be the worst performance of the year for Purdue. Here's a clip from Tuesday night's reaction podcast with our Purdue guy, Jake Dunn, and our IU guys, Mike Hutsell and Grant Shouse. And it starts with Mike Hutsell talking about the importance of Nick Dorn.
When we talked about Nick Dorn and how important this guy was going to be for the team when he was scoring 2-3 points a night and games against like Incarnate Word or whatever. But you could just see it with that kid. He's a scorer. He's a guy who's got a scorer's mentality. He shot almost 50% from the three-point line at Elon last year. It's like if they can just get this kid healthy, get his confidence going, there's something there. He can be that third guy that this team so desperately needed to be a scorer. And now this is 3 games in a row now where he's been in double figures. And he doesn't think about it. When he gets the ball in that corner, he's going to shoot it. And that's a huge, to get that guy going, to get that third guy, it takes pressure off Enright to feel like he has to score. It takes pressure off Conaway when he's healthy. You could tell he was sorely missed tonight, I thought, in stretches. But getting Dorn out there to go with DeVries and Wilkerson, it finally added that third scoring element that it felt like this team was just searching for the first 2 months of the season to find.
I agree with you, Mike. I think that Indiana, what this win does for him, obviously boosts a lot of confidence to win that game at home, because we've seen so many times, not just with this team, but with Indiana basketball over the years, we've seen them piss that game away. Just late turnovers like tonight, missed free throws. Everything was pointing towards them throwing that game away, and for them to be able to hunker down and get a big Tucker DeVries had that big rebound there off of like 2 put-back attempts from Trey Kaufman-Wren. He pulled down a big rebound. They hit big free throws down the stretch, even though they missed some. Enright hit a couple big ones, and for them to pull away and get that stop just does a whole lot for their confidence. And the fact that they're going to play again at Mackey, toughest place to play in college basketball. You're going to get Purdue's best shot the next time you play them. But again, this does a lot, A, for your resume for the NCAA tournament, because it's your first quad 1 win. And it, again, just what it does for your confidence after you had lost 4 in a row, 5 in a row. Now you're on a winning streak now, and you're going out to your West Coast trip here.
Yeah, that's a key. We talked about this 8-game stretch so often as it was approaching, and who were they going to beat in this stretch? And they didn't beat anybody. And they blew the Nebraska game, and we kind of felt like, okay, you just really let a big opportunity go, because who else are you going to beat? They obviously got destroyed at Michigan State. They didn't play well at Michigan. Hey, guess what? Teams are going to lose at Michigan and at Michigan State. You absolutely crapped the bed against Iowa, and probably your most embarrassing performance of the year, really. And you're coming out of that game, going to Michigan. You're not feeling very good vibes. The football team's doing what it's doing, so nobody was paying attention. But you really needed something to get a little bit of the momentum back and get people on board with this team. Well, there's no better way to do that than to go out and beat your arch rival in a game that I don't think anybody in the world, hell, you saw B say it, Grant said it, everybody on the podcast said it, Purdue's going to win this one. I don't think it's going to be particularly close. So it is a big win. It's your first quad 1 win. It's the signature win of the DeVries era so far. And now you just gotta build on that, because now you got the tough, good teams don't go to the West Coast and win both games in LA. So if you can figure out a way to win these next 2, you've got a lot of momentum going into February and a lot lighter schedule.
As Mike just mentioned, IU goes west for their next 2 games starting Saturday against UCLA. Purdue looks to end its 3-game losing streak Friday night at Maryland. Crazy night in the Big Ten. Number 3 Michigan came from behind to hand number 5 Nebraska its first loss of the season, 75-72, and Michigan State needed overtime to win at Rutgers, 88-79. As of Wednesday afternoon, Michigan, Michigan State, and Nebraska are all 9-1 in the Big Ten, a 3-way tie for first. Illinois, which hosts Washington on Thursday, is 8-1 and a half game back. Purdue is now 2 games back at 7-3, with Wisconsin and UCLA both at 6-3. Notre Dame is 11-10 after dropping a 100-97 double overtime heartbreaker to number 17 Virginia on Tuesday. The Irish led in both overtimes, including by 4 points with 3 minutes left in the first extra session. Cole Serta led Notre Dame with 30 points, but he did miss a potential game-winning shot at the buzzer at the end of regulation. Indiana State lost 76-74 at UIC to fall to 9-13. Elijah Crawford stole a Sycamore inbound pass and scored with a second left to give the 12-10 Flames the win. Number 24, Miami of Ohio, is 21-0 after an 86-84 win over UMass. The Red Hawks and number 1 Arizona remain the only unbeaten teams in college basketball. In women's college basketball Tuesday, big win for Purdue Fort Wayne, 60-46 over Robert Morris. The Mastodons are now 14-8 overall, 8-4 in the Horizon, in second place, but 4 games behind conference unbeaten Green Bay. Not much high school basketball in Central Indiana on Tuesday. Hope to have some makeup games for you on tomorrow's show. But 3A number 2 Cathedral did beat 2A number 12 Cecina 65-58 to win the Indianapolis City Championship. Keaton Aldridge had 20 points, 7 rebounds, and 3 assists for the Irish, according to LG Hoops. The 2026 IU football schedule is out. Never imagined in my life, producer Susie, that I'd have a special podcast for an IU football schedule being released, but we did and we do. And here's the breakdown from Mike and Grant.
Indiana releases its football schedule for the 2026 season. And Mike, this is a lot more similar to, I think, Indiana's 2024 schedule in a way. They're going to play their first 4 games at home, with their non-conference games being North Texas, which is a sneaky game, I think, Howard and Western Kentucky in the non-conference. Then they will open up Big Ten play on September 26th at home against Northwestern. Then after that, they will travel to Rutgers. After the Rutgers game on October 3rd, they will, on October the 10th, travel to Nebraska. They will come home on October 17th for what will be a highly anticipated rematch with the Ohio State Buckeyes for the first time in Bloomington since 2023. The following week, on October the 24th, they will travel to the Big House to take on the Michigan Wolverines. They will come back home on Halloween and take on the Minnesota Golden Gophers. They will then go on their one bye week of the year on November the 7th. Then they will round out the regular season with USC at home on the 14th. And then they will travel to Washington on November the 21st. And then they have what is a weird bye week, which is normally when they play the Old Oak and Bucket game, the last regular season game of the year.
Guys, that has to be the most difficult October in the history of IU schedule, I would assume.
No, we used to just call that the Big Ten East schedule. It's not anything out of the ordinary. It's just we actually have a team. We actually have a team that's equipped to play it at this point. They replaced Michigan State with at Nebraska. That's pretty much the difference than what Indiana played for all those years between the East and the West. So most anticipated home game in Indiana football history, October the 17th. Don't think there's any question you're going to see an attendance record at IU that day. Road trip to Michigan. Pretty upset that they're not going to have a coach. Text messaging only fan models before the game at this point. They actually have a real Michigan program again to contend with in the Big Ten, which is upsetting. It was fun to laugh at for a while. And then after you come out of the bye week, you got 2 tricky games there. USC, it's a traditional powerhouse program. They're going to have maybe the best quarterback in the Big Ten going into the year next year, and Mayava. Lincoln Riley hasn't quite got it all together there for a full season, but they're always talented. They've always got elite receivers, good quarterback play. So that could be a tough one. And then anytime you have to go out to anywhere on the West Coast, in particularly Washington, that Pacific Northwest run, Washington, Oregon, is never a game where you can just be like, yeah, that'll be easy. I don't anticipate that being simple by any stretch. I think that's going to be a low-key good game. So it's not the toughest schedule I think you can get out of the Big Ten, but it's also definitely not going to be a cakewalk whatsoever. And you mentioned the non-con games even. North Texas, they lost their coach. They lost Messmaker. They're going to have Taven Jackson at quarterback in that game, so we don't really know a lot about them, but that's been a good program over the last few years, and as has Western Kentucky, a team that I think Indiana should struggle with by any stretch, but that's a perennial mid-major bowl team that does very well in its conference.
Thanks so much to Jake, Grant, and Mike for joining me on Tuesday to talk IU Purdue and IU football schedule. And yes, Mike Hutsell, you finally are my friend. A couple of quick national headlines before we move to Wednesday's schedule. Bill Belichick was snubbed by the voters in his first year of eligibility for the Pro Football Hall of Fame. A lot of people are up in arms over it, and for good reason. The greatest defensive coordinator of all time, start there, should be in the Hall of Fame. And he's also the most accomplished head coach of all time. That guy gets in the Hall of Fame on the first ballot. The 2026 finalists are, with how I would vote if I had a vote, Drew Brees, yes. Larry Fitzgerald, yes. Frank Gore, eventually. Phillip Rivers, no. Jason Witten, eventually. Willie Anderson, eventually. Torrey Holt, no. Luke Kuechly didn't play long enough, maybe eventually. And Adam Vinatieri, kickers just gotta wait. Jerry Rice and Steve Young have been named captains for the Pro Bowl games. And Broncos head coach Sean Payton said Bo Nix had a condition that made breaking his ankle, quote unquote, inevitable. Of course, Nix broke his ankle on the last play of the Broncos' 33-30 win over the Bills in the divisional round. And his backup Jarrett Stidham failed to get Denver to Super Bowl 60. Speaking of which, I think this may be a better Super Bowl than I first anticipated. The Seahawks are 4.5-point favorites. We've reached the final four in the men's draw in the Australian Open. Remaining are number 1 Carlos Alcaraz, number 2 Jannik Sinner, number 3 Alex Zverev, and number 4 Novak Djokovic. Djokovic was down 2-0 early and still down 2-1 after 3 when Italian Luca Musetti was forced to retire, giving Djokovic his record 54th Grand Slam semifinal appearance. Unbelievable. And Trinity Rodman scored a goal in her return to the lineup as USA's women's soccer team beat Chile 5-0 on Tuesday. They have a month off before facing Argentina in Nashville. Producer Susie, we need a song or something for looking ahead to the next day. So, looking ahead to Wednesday or something like that. What do you think?
Looking ahead to Wednesday.
There you go. I guess that's it. Off the top of her head. She's amazing. At 7 o'clock, just 4 hours from when I recorded this podcast, the Indiana Pacers will host the Chicago Bulls. The Bulls are 23-23 and 9th in the Eastern Conference and just a game and a half behind the coveted 6th spot in the Eastern Conference. So they could really use a win. But ESPN Analytics says the Pacers have a 51.7% chance of winning this game. The Pacers are currently 11-36, and with the Pelicans and Wizards both winning on Tuesday night, the Pacers now have the worst record in the league again. Woo! So this is a good time to go to Tankathon and see what the NBA draft site says will be the Pacers' fortune. And today, hit the wrong button, Susie. Today, the answer is they will have the 5th pick, which they actually have as Caleb Wilson. If they have the 5th pick and end up with Caleb Wilson, I would love it. As of right now, the worst they can do is 5th, but it would be about a 50% chance that they would end up with the 5th pick. That is, of course, if they don't trade the pick with 9 days before the NBA trade deadline. I've been saying all year, Darren Peterson, AJ DeBonta, Cameron Boozer, or Caleb Wilson. Any of the 4 of them would be fantastic. Also on Wednesday, 13-7 Butlers at 15-5 St. John's. The Red Storm ranked 25th, have won 6 in a row. Butlers won 3 in a row. 12-10 Oakland is at 13-8 PFW in a huge game in the horizon. Oakland is currently in second place, a half game behind Wright State. Purdue Fort Wayne is in third, a game behind the lead. Huge win for the Mastodons. At 7:30, 5-15 Evansville goes to 11-10 Drake. 18-3 Belmont takes on 10-10 Valpo at 8 o'clock. At 7, IU Indy is at Robert Morris. And in a big NAIA Crossroads League game, 16-4 Taylor is at 17-3 Indiana Wesleyan. We hope to hear from our guy from the Action Sports Network, Kevin Helfrich, about that one. And at 7:30, 1-17 Earlham visits 9-9 Anderson. None of the top teams play in the Big Ten on Wednesday. USC is at Iowa at 7, Minnesota at Wisconsin at 9, and UCLA at Oregon at 11. On the women's side, it'll be 15-5 Ball State at 12-6 Central Michigan in a big MAC contest. 16-4 Taylor takes on 11-9 Indiana Wesleyan, and 10-8 Anderson goes to 1-17 Earlham. 19 minutes and 55 seconds. Producer Susie, does that cut it?
I think that's it.
Thank you, everyone, for joining me. We'll be back again tomorrow with another edition of Greg and his friends talk sports. Please join us then. The Central Indiana Sports Report is a product of ITG Media. And I love you, Susie.
Maybe too.
Love you too, producer Daisy. She kind of a producer. You just stuff for sure.